everybody. Welcome back to The Best Thing Ever, a podcast about the stuff your friends like. As you know, I have a reputation on the internet for being somewhat of a hater. This week, I've hated on ChatGPT, Threads, Swifties, Reddit, cult leaders, pickleball, and Marilyn Manson. And I will clarify, I'm right about all of those. But just as a balance to my life, I'm looking for new ways to love things and new things to love. And so that's why this show, The Best Thing Ever, where my friends talk about things that they love. This week, episode 21 of the show, we are talking about... You know, I love a war, right? You guys, one of my favorite things.
You love a war.
I love a war.
I mean, why else would you shit on Swifties? There's nothing good that comes from that. I would rather you have said I was playing with a loaded gun this week than say I was hating on Swifties, Alex. I love you too much.
It was one Swiftie. There was one Swiftie who and the thing I didn't like about her was that I think she was taking advantage of other Swifties. To be
It always starts with one Swiftie, and then the army quickly comes.
Dude,
what are you doing?
Are legion, dude. They're all one.
I feel like I'm on the right side of this issue. She was conning other Swifties, and I didn't appreciate it. So I love wars, and some of my favorite wars have taken place among the stars. So for episode 21, we're talking about possibly the best thing ever, Star Wars, and that we have a great presentation today from my friend Anthony Lopez, including such things. I'm looking at pictures that I've pulled for this. Some things there's that meme where Anakin is like, "But you did this, right? Right?" It looks like a picture of a watershed, and then I don't know this guy in a suit. What is this from?
That is from David Lynch's Dune.
Okay, that's from.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize.
No, I thought it's more us interpreting what you're going to talk about. But okay, so we've got those things: watershed, Dune, and this is just a meme, right? All of that and more is coming up. So we take the topic, we're going to do a deep dive into it, and then we're going to rank it on the master list. Let me introduce you to our panelists in a game that I call Three Hosts and a Lie, where I introduce everybody with a fun fact. 3 of the fun facts are true. 1 of them is not true. That could include mine. We'll find out. I'm Alex. I'm your host. I'm a comedian. And my first writing job, here's a fun fact, my first writing job was for a topless magazine. That's a fact. Could be true. Could be not true.
When you were 12,
what does that mean?
What is a topless magazine?
I don't know. It could be a true thing. It could be not a true thing. If I were to guess...
but just if we get to ask a question, though.
Yeah, it's a magazine where the top half of it is gone.
Is it a top magazine where you have to
so this is
you flip it upside down and the top disappears, but you flip it back and the top
That's
appears?
so cool. So you got to buy the bottom half at a different place.
Yes.
Is that what
you need a bottom-full magazine.
Yeah, I don't know what you would... I guess it would like a soft-core porno mag, if that makes sense. Like, it's like... tasteful nudity, but not actually. Hypothetically, if this was true. Also, you said you get a question. The questions definitely make this game too easy for the listener, so that's a choice.
Oh no, because there's prizes?
No. It's gonna be hard.
I like
that.
Tough. No, never mind.
Okay. Also joining us, our chief marketing officer, Mr. Ezra Fox. Fun fact about him: he once found a fried mouse in a box of chicken nuggets. Like not a box, like a thing. A case.
I mean, so it was a Happy Meal. The wildest thing about it, the mouse did look pretty happy, all things considered.
Oh, dang. It was because it thought it was about to get some food.
That
was about to have a bunch of French fries.
Delicious. Yeah, that's so true.
Was it peanut oil or what kind of
oil was it? Was still canola. I think it was back in the day because peanut allergies, I think, were still were known at this point. So.
Yeah. Also joining us today, our chief historian, Mr. Anthony Lopez. Fun fact about him: he was in jazz band for over a year without learning how to read music.
Oh, yeah. I played guitar. I sat in the back. Just didn't do anything for a full year. Just got an A. It was fucking great.
I do feel like guitar in jazz band, pretty soft sound. You could definitely miss it behind, like...
Yeah. Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a really good guitar player. So I learned a valuable life lesson there, which is if you can, like... be the guy behind a really talented guy, you can go really far in life.
Yeah,
right? Just kind of like sit behind him.
How far have you gone? You are on this podcast mostly for your guitar skills, so you really... where's he now?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know what Hans is.
Yeah, if you're Hans, right in.
Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Terrible guitar player. Also rounding out the panel today, our official board game influencer, Mr. Hunter Donaldson. Fun fact about him, he hasn't been to the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So, but what if because I actually live really near it, and there's I'm not saying for sure, and I don't want to invalidate the game because I don't want to mess it up. But I may have, in between telling you
Well,
it could have. My
I think I
status
know-
with this could have changed in a way.
Hunter.
I'm not sure. Like,
Were you
where we're at with the game? I actually think there might be 2 lies. I'm not certain though.
Hunter? I have a question. Were you possibly in a Ghostbusters 2 scenario where the Statue of Liberty came to you?
Yes.
So that was what I was going to say. The
That's-
Statue of Liberty moved into my neighborhood.
It's one of those technically correct on that.
Love kept lifting you higher.
I've never been to the Statue of Liberty, but I have been to the Statue of Liberty in video games.
Oh, okay.
Does that
Oh.
count?
I've been
pretty
to
good.
the
It's
Statue of
basically
Liberty
the same.
at New York, and Las Vegas. I've been to that littler one.
There's like a lot
Oh
of
no,
them,
it's
right?
actually bigger than the real one.
Is
the
it
one
really?
in New York? I mean, the one here is really tiny, and I remember going to the one in New York.
It's
the
tiny?
Las Vegas. It's really small.
Okay, well, I'm convinced now that this is still a true
Yeah, the
fact.
French
You've
are
not
real
been there.
cheap.
I feel
No,
like
really
I think
cheaped
it's-
out
I
on
think
the
it's-
giant statue.
I just
Copper
I
was
don't think
expensive.
it's just in your head. You see it in movies, and you're like, "Oh, it's so big," and then if I've seen it in real life, maybe I would have thought that it didn't actually seem that big in real life. If I have seen it.
They sent it on a boat, Ezra.
Hunter-
Hunter.
Let me
It
just check in
can
with
only
you
be
real
so
quick,
big.
Hunter. Are you the kind of person who, if you found out something you had said on a podcast was incorrect, would you like to know that, or would you like to have the people at home know it, but you don't find out till much later?
It's all I'm pointing out is that I've
asking you a
maybe
question.
been to both, and from memory, I thought the one in Las Vegas was bigger.
Okay,
That's really my point here. I don't need to be proved right or wrong
Okay.
because I realize that I might be wrong. But what I'm talking about is what it felt like, you know.
Yeah.
So it's about half the height, a little less than half the height of the real one, and it's 150 tons versus 27,000 tons, so it's much lighter. But yeah, it's 2/5 the height of the.
But you
one
also
in
are
New
on a
York.
roller coaster. You can go on that roller coaster
This is
around
true.
it.
So it looks
and that
bigger
does
because you're moving.
add some-
That's a
Yeah.
classic.
That's what I'm saying.
That's how they get you in Vegas. Okay,
Trust me, I've gotten a lot of mileage from that philosophy in life.
so that is the game. 3 Hosts and a Lie. You will have the answers at the end of the show if you stick around. But now it's time to talk about Star Wars. So first, let's talk about why we're talking about Star Wars. So this was picked by our listener Laura, who won our listener survey contest. And I read you a quote from Laura last week. Here's a little bit more about this for our core memory, where we talk about our first and earliest or strongest memories of the thing. So from Laura.
Wait,
Laura's-
Alex.
Yes.
Alex, before you read it, can I just in the background? Can we all give him one of these? Dun dun dun. It's like do the opening theme from Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
The-
kinda
the
like
What were
the
you
crawl
all
happens.
thinking, though?
Finish,
Yeah, I
you
kinda
nailed
blew
the
it at
song.
the
What were
beginning.
you?
I hit-
Clearly
What
read
was
music.
that?
Go ahead.
I
Sing
heard
right
some
ahead.
notes there. What?
Dun-dun-dun.
I hit the wrong notes at the beginning.
Yeah, the iconic John Williams. But
Star Wars.
It's got those AT-ATs walking like a funny elephant parade.
Bum dum be bum bum. Bumpity bum bumpity bum.
wait, is this where we find out that they actually watch the kids bop Star Wars?
Okay, guys, I'm gonna be honest. I've only ever seen Bill Murray's song about Star Wars. I didn't actually see the movie.
No, let's do this for real. Let's have a real Star Wars theme song. 3, 2, 1. All right. Here's what Laura has to say about
I was
Star
talking about
Wars.
that later.
Laura says, I am old enough to have seen the first Star Wars film in theater opening weekend. Wow. Hipster. Within a week, everyone on the playground was shooting blasters, roaring like Chewbacca, and having lightsaber battles, which is why I assume so many of Laura's classmates were without arms. It literally changed our world, filling it with action figures, lunchboxes, and, of course, the holiday special, which I remember watching on my sofa and thinking, whatever the child's version of WTF is. 90s kids had their prequels. My kids had Clone Wars and some awesome video games like Battlefront. Today we've got Rey, Kylo Ren, Baby Yoda, and all the Disney Plus programs. That is 45 years of content, all stemming from one little film. And then there's all of the extended universe, some canon, some no longer canon, the former canon, the ex-canon. And then there was the no longer canon, but now maybe is again. Anyway, the influence cannot fully be measured. Does influential always equal good? Of course not. But Star Wars from the beginning was about fun. Watching the movies is fun. Debating which of the trilogies is best is fun. Watching kids discover it all for the first time is fun. And isn't fun. truly the best thing ever. Kind of a meta question there. I don't know where we'd rank
Yeah,
fun.
Laura's doing a little bit of category fraud at the end of that.
Yeah.
We're ranking Star Wars.
Just a little
okay?
Also fun.
I will say, I wonder if rereading this and reading it out loud, I guess I'm wondering if maybe Laura meant exclusively Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope instead of the whole thing. But we'll see. Who
Too late.
knows?
We're doing it all.
One of the things I like about our rating is the category fraud, is that we rank it on the master list based on whatever we think it is we just talked about. So we're going to talk about, so that's Laura's core memories. Obviously, we were not old enough to have seen it in theaters when it first came out. Anthony, I think you put this image in. Do you want to start us off with this image? What's this we're looking at for your core memory?
Yeah, so what I put in the core memory was I was not a rich kid who could watch it on the superior Laserdisc version, which for a long time was the only way to, like, the best way to see Star Wars. But this is how I first saw Star Wars, was this VHS trilogy set. I remember the first time I saw Star Wars was right about the time before the re-releases in like 97, I believe they were, because I had never really kind of come up around Star Wars. I didn't know a lot of people. I didn't really know what it was, so I like genuinely went in pretty blind. You know, a big part of the reason why the re-releases even happened was because kids from our age group weren't being introduced to Star Wars as frequently. Like, it's literally because the books and toy sales were declining is why they re-released it. So it worked beautifully, obviously.
I think actually they re-released it because that was his true original vision, and he was finally able to realize it. But
yeah, I mean,
also
that's
the
true.
toy
The integrity
sales
of it. But yeah, so this was the first time I saw it. Was on VHS 4x3, again, the way he clearly intended it to be seen.
I watched these VHS ones so much that for probably the first 10 years of my life, I thought every movie just started with like the Fox, like 20th Century Fox, like fanfare.
that was
I
just
thought
all
all movies
movies.
had to start that way.
I love that.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
The first time I ever saw any of this was definitely ROTJ, and it was on television when I was very young. I remember my parents were like watching it on. So I remember my strongest memories are like the Ewoks and commercial breaks. That's how I was first. Also, the way George intended it to be viewed.
And just being like, why aren't they blinking?
What?
But he eventually fixed that. But at the time,
Did he really? Oh, I didn't realize that. That's
yeah,
funny.
that was one of the last final revisions he did.
Hilarious.
Was he made it so the Ewoks blink?
So what I remember is I remember asking my parents what was going on, and them being like, "Is too confused. I don't like all. It's too much. You're too far behind." And then
they weren't like, well, see, Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces says that the hero's journey must be.
And then I had the VHS tapes that I watched a bunch, but I definitely had the fixed versions, I'll call them. I had the re-releases, so I thought all movies started out with George Lucas explaining why he'd ruined the movie for you. And my strongest memory of that is that there's a part in one of the things where he's like, there's this famous quote that movies are never finished or just abandoned. I didn't want to live with my abandonment. I wanted to go back and make the movie that I had always intended to make but couldn't. And almost every change he made it worse. And so it's just stuck in my mind forever that if you're allowed to make the thing you want, it'll be worse than if you're not. That the constraints are what make you good at stuff. And when you have money and time, if you get to keep screwing with it, you'll only ruin it.
Another thing that helped was having all of those really smart, nice friends that he had that fixed the movie the first time because he messed it up before it even came out. So,
Right. This I think you told me this story at one point, Hunter, but this is not something I knew much about, so I only now vaguely know about that. But yeah, this is like he was a tyrant later, but early on had to like listen to people with taste.
Well, yeah, there's like when he showed it to like Brian De Palma and Francis Ford Coppola, and they all were like, "This is dumb and bad," and then they had to fix it because that was his friends. He had friends at the time. He had friends.
Interesting.
Now
he just has money.
Now he lives in a castle by himself, and he just stands on the
like
tallest
that lady
tower.
in the Bucket Hat and Space Baby.
He is like that, yeah.
Where she's just always sitting on the throne waiting for him to show up.
Yeah.
And then my next memory of it, just to keep, I'll wrap on this. Was this fine lady? Was this nice lady? When I was like,
Who is
16?
So people can't see.
And yeah, this is a Padme. And I was 16 and had never seen a more perfect lady than that lady. And I watched this movie multiple times in theaters because she was such a cute lady. And then
you get a lot of versions of her.
Did you
like the full? full like Senate regalia. Was that the thing that did it for you?
Oh,
Did
yeah, with
you
like
like
the white
it?
makeup and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you like it more when she was Keira Knightley?
What?
So
I don't
yeah,
know
so
if you- in
Oh,
the
was
first
she like
movie.
a double at one point?
Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
It
it's Keira
literally
Knightley.
it goes from scene to scene between the two actresses.
Oh, I
between
didn't- I
Natalie
didn't know that.
Portman and Keira Knightley, and they look very similar, and they're wearing all this crazy makeup, and it's pretty hard to tell. But yeah, throughout the movie, so the idea. As a child, you thought you were in love with Natalie Portman, but you were secretly in love with Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman.
Because what
Yeah.
happened was like Natalie Portman's next movie, I think, after episode 1, was Where the Heart Is, where she's a pregnant woman living at a Walmart with a Southern accent, and I was like, oh, this is not my favorite lady. I don't
Oh,
like
dude,
any
yeah,
of these
she's
things
so
about
bad
her.
at accents, dude. Natalie can't do those accents. I don't know why people keep trying to get her to do voices, because she can't do it, man. It's all right. She's not.
Look, I'm
she
just
seems
saying,
like a nice lady, but she
as
just
a
can't do that.
16-year-old, if you're attracted to somebody and then all of a sudden they have a different accent and they're pregnant, it's less fun.
Right,
That's what I
true.
learned.
She grew up fast for you.
She
you
did.
know?
Exactly. Anyway, Ezra, your dad was like in this universe, right? So he's canon. So you were
yeah,
around
he was
this from
also
early.
my dad also swapped scenes in for Natalie Portman and Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
known
beautiful,
fact.
beautiful woman, your dad.
No, so my dad really loved Star Wars, I guess, when it came out, and then like I think around probably 81 or 82, he was working at Lucas in the games division, making like computer games. They weren't allowed to touch anything Star Wars based, but they could do other stuff. Like so that like I think George was really interested in games as an idea and didn't have to really make money. So it's like you can't touch Star Wars. We are licensed Star Wars out to other people doing game stuff, but mess around and have fun. So he did a lot of really cool stuff, but we had just a ton of Star Wars swag around the house. So like, I mean, one of the things just like, also we had like a Revenge of the Jedi poster because they made a ton of merch before they realized someone was like, actually, Jedi's don't really take revenge, so we can't do that. I'm not sure that's how
Who
they
was
sound.
it that was realizing that?
That was David Lynch's one note when he was. No. David Lynch. David Lynch was the first choice to direct Return of the Jedi, and he
Well,
immediately
Steven Spielberg
said
was
no.
the first choice.
Yes,
and then
Steven
they
Spielberg.
asked
Yeah,
David-
and then
yeah.
David Lynch was the second choice, and David Lynch immediately said no. But as he left the table, I imagine he stood up and went, I don't think Jedis get revenge like that.
I'm sure. Okay, so this is all new to me. I didn't realize either of those things. Boy, those are two different movies.
Yeah.
I guess 3 different movies. The Spielberg version of this movie, but also the David Lynch version of Return of the Jedi. Is there an alternative universe where we could see that? Holy shit.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll just
I mean,
fire up my
there's
alternative
Dune.
universe viewing machine.
Oh, I want
and
to
we'll
see
be
that
right
so
there.
bad. Oh,
You can just watch Dune because there's like a battle pug in Dune. So
I
I mean,
think that's
all.
going to come up later in the presentation, according to the image I randomly grabbed.
Not really, no.
Do you have
Kind
a?
of.
I mean, the posters were there. Yeah, we had like, I mean, we just it was everywhere. It was Star Wars was really everywhere. It was in the air. I don't know the first time I watched any of it.
Yeah.
it was just
As-
always there.
Have you ever been to Skywalker Ranch?
Yeah,
You have?
yeah.
Oh my God! I genuinely got so excited.
Even a good question.
Yeah, I just.
Amazing.
Was it
Yeah,
fucking cool?
Was it good?
Yeah, it was cool.
Was it cool?
I mean, I was, I guess between probably up till like 8 years old. I guess I would go there at some points.
That's the
with my
coolest
dad.
shit I've ever heard in my entire life. That's so fucking cool. That's so fucking cool.
Hunter. Star
Yeah.
Wars core memory.
So I remember for some reason I assumed I wasn't gonna like Star Wars. Like I remember my parents were like, "Do you want to watch Star Wars?" And they had the box set, like this box set that we got in the Figma right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Nah, I don't think I'll like that." And then my uncle, who had just recently gotten divorced, my divorced uncle was like, "No, you should watch Star Wars." And it was like me and my cousin and him, and we were sitting there. It was kind of late at night, and he just put on A New Hope, and then he fell asleep.
Sure.
And so he was just like asleep, like snoring. And then my cousin fell asleep too. And so I'm just like sitting on this couch with this like, snoring divorced uncle,
Yeah.
and you know how those divorced uncles snores now.
Yeah.
And New Hope finished. and I just put in Empire Strikes Back and just immediately watched the next 2 movies.
Oh, that's rad.
With him, and they were just asleep the entire time, and I was just like enthralled and was like, "This is unbelievable.
This is for me.
This is a thing." Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. I also love that we're around the age that we all had. It's the same box set that we all had.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was exactly that one.
All right, Anthony, take us from here. So these are the memories that got us started. But I would like your deep dive, and I know there's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm very excited to see what direction you take it. So without further ado, we're going to follow your lead on the Figma. By the way, if you want to see our images, you can go to youtube.com/AlexFalcone, and you can watch along with our amazing visual aids. Anthony, please tell us the deep dive into Star Wars.
I got so used to the music not working.
It always works to the listener. That's the thing to remember.
Yeah. But yeah, so I wanted before I start this, I want to start with sort of 2 quick points about Star Wars and what this presentation will not be. So number 1, my first point is that the making of Star Wars is most likely the most covered and documented making of any piece of art in the history of art, right? There were more. If you wanted to find out about the making of Star Wars, you could literally spend the rest of your life reading and watching stuff about the making of Star Wars. It's a fascinating story. There's all 6 movies under the George Lucas banner, which is kind of the Lucasfilm banner. It's mostly what I'm going to be focusing on today. It's great. If you want to get that story, you can go find it somewhere else. I'm not going to cover that today. Second thing I want to cover real fast.
Continue to.
No. Second thing I want to cover
20
real
documentaries
fast.
on this.
Yes, exactly.
But I'm not going to watch those. I'd like to hear Anthony explain them instead. That's part of the fun of the show. Okay, whatever.
The second point I want to cover right now, what this presentation is going to be, is that the quality or lack thereof of the Star Wars series is the most discussed and debated of literally any piece of art in the history of art. Again, if you want to listen to 4 dudes on a podcast argue about if Attack of the Clones sucks, you can do that. That exists.
There's a Mr. Plinkett cameo on this Figma. You gotta check this out, everybody.
To be clear, this is not disappointing the way the first point was.
This is good. I wasn't ready for this one.
I wanted to learn something. I was not interested in doing this one.
Yes, so that's the thing. I want to sort of avoid the quality. It's not what I want to talk about. So what do I want to talk about? Instead, I want to talk about this guy right here. I want to talk about watersheds. So a watershed is essentially it's a thing that's caused by mountains or tall hills. When water goes down, it creates a long straight line out to a river or the ocean or whatever. And essentially creates a long line that once you cross it, you are on the other side of it, right? And it's used in art as a watershed moment with certain things. I talked about this in a video game episode about how one of the things I really like about games is you get a lot of these watershed moments every few years in rapid succession. We don't get a lot of them in movies anymore. We do get a few every once in a while. So I want to just as an example of what I'm talking about when I talk about watershed moments in film. I want to give a fairly recent example from our lifetime. And I want to talk about Christopher Nolan's 2008 film, The Dark Knight, right?
Okay.
Good movie. People like it. It obviously has very iconic performances. The tone obviously influenced film in a major way. We are still feeling that. It was the first movie to ask the question, what if Michael Mann's Heat, but about the Batman instead? Which is a brave question.
Yeah.
But that's
very brave.
Very brave.
What a dramatic answer, too.
Yeah. But that's not the watershed moment that The Dark Knight actually did. The thing that Dark Knight did that is so important for film is that Christopher Nolan and his director of photography, Wally Feister, shot 28 minutes of The Dark Knight using IMAX cameras. All right, so this doesn't sound like a very big thing, but this was an incredibly complicated and a huge pain in the ass process. IMAX cameras at the time, there was only about 5 of them on the planet that they could use. They were super expensive. They were incredibly heavy. They were super loud. You needed even more specialized equipment than you already need to make a movie to fucking use these things. The film canisters didn't have a lot of film. So you couldn't do very long takes. It was a big pain in the ass, but they fought for it. They believed in it, and they shot 28 minutes of The Dark Knight. This choice right here is a watershed moment in films. This genuinely, literally changed the way movies look. Right? This is something not a lot of people will be aware of, but this sent massive shockwaves through the industry. This is a choice that will be felt for literally decades. And what it did is it's made IMAX movies cheaper to make. It's made the technology advance really for right before this. IMAX was probably about to go out of business. It was a dying format, and they completely revitalized it, right? It is why, even though Mission Impossible, the new Mission Impossible that was being shot with IMAX, is going to make more money than Oppenheimer, IMAX is giving Oppenheimer all IMAX screens in the world for 3 weeks because they fucking owe him. That is why they are giving Christopher Nolan all the IMAX. But this literally, like I said, this changed the way movies look. Before The Dark Knight, Fantasia 2000 was made for IMAX, and there was a lot of documentaries before this. But after The Dark Knight, this is just a small selection of some of them. Nope last year was shot with 48 minutes in IMAX cameras. The cameras have gotten smaller. They've gotten easier to use. And like I said, this has literally changed the way movies look. That's what this choice is. And that's the idea I want to talk about today, right?
Okay.
So the point is, and why I bring this up, is that the thing about Star Wars is, between the first 6 movies in Star Wars, it did this to literally every facet of filmmaking. From pre-production to production, post-production, to distribution, exhibition, to the concept of fandom. It did things to change criticism. It's like the fact that, like, you know, you referenced the Plinkett YouTube videos, which, like, however you feel about them, long-form YouTube content. Was
that's
not
where video
a thing.
Essays come from. Is from
Yes, exactly.
The Plinkett review. Like,
It's
that's
all,
the whole thing.
Like Star Wars is even outside of the movies themselves. So much of our world is based off these watershed moments that have come from this film series. So what I want to focus on is the watershed moments of Star Wars that I kind of find the most interesting.
Great.
And the things that I sort of think about why it deserves to be on this list. Right?
I just want to say real quick that Chewbacca without his head on is very unnerving.
Yeah.
I don't like
Peter
this photo.
Mayhew.
I feel uncomfortable
You don't like
looking
his
at this
face?
photo. Yep.
Just calling
I like
Peter
that he has
Mayhew
some
ugly.
fuzziness
His face
still.
with a Chewbacca body is very upsetting.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, on set, I will give you one piece of Star Wars trivia. You know, on set, they gave him lines in English to say. So, like, everything Chewbacca says, there is a document you can find that is what he is actually supposed to be saying.
That is really funny.
So you can find the behind the scenes when, like, Han and him and talking, and Peter Mayhew is, like, saying what Chewbacca is supposed
What
to
was
have
his
been
voice
saying.
like?
And
Did he try to do a voice at all, or was he just like, I agree, I'll tear your arm off?
Well, no, he's like most people who worked on Star Wars, who weren't the main cast. He's a very nice, soft-spoken British man. It's a lot
wait,
like...
really? Chewbacca was secretly British? You did it to me with another actor.
Yeah, everyone.
Every
Darth
time
Vader.
I like a person who has a non-British accent, I find out
They are
secretly British.
Yeah, Darth Vader is British.
God damn it.
It's a big part of why you can imagine why everyone, you know, when they were making Star Wars, they thought it was going to be a disaster because you don't have James Earl Jones' voice coming out of Darth Vader. You have a very sweet British guy saying these lines, and on set it's like, oh, this is going to suck. This is awful, right?
It does seem like on set this movie might have been bad. Like if the lightsabers were just sticks and then everyone was soft-spoken and British.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, the fact that so much of the vision, and kind of what I'm going to get into here, so much of the vision wasn't possible before Star Wars, right? They had to create so much technology to make this happen, right? That's some of the stuff that changed, right? So when I'm talking about watershed moments, you know, I think sort of the first and foremost, the ones that always kind of come to mind for me when I think of Star Wars, and this is something that you absolutely have to credit George Lucas for, this was like kind of his pitch, is what he called the used world aesthetic, right? So I'm talking about the aesthetic language of Star Wars, right? Science fiction before Star Wars did not look like this, right? So, like, I do have some images down here of what science fiction films look like before. And George
Can you
Lucas's
describe what
whole
we're
thing-
seeing? Like, what are some
what
like
are the
some key
hallmarks?
elements of this
Yeah,
aesthetically?
you know, we got like 2001 is probably the most famous science fiction movie. It's very clean. It's very symmetrical. Nothing looks
It's
used.
very shiny.
classic Star Trek. You know, even though the set design is so iconic, everything is shiny. Everything is slick. You know, you have the Flash Gordon serials. You have the Day of the Earth stood still.
It's
a
about
lot
newness,
of colors
right?
matching things,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of
Yes.
science fiction before Star Wars is like everything should look new, and it's literally about thinking about how great the future will be, especially with Star Trek. Is like all super optimistic, whereas Star Wars is
no one
like
spills on their shirt in the future.
no, yeah. It's just everything's all sweet, and then Star Wars is like, yeah, it's actually all the stuff's old. All old
Yeah,
shit, and
right.
this isn't even the future. This is the past. Like,
Well,
Okay, that part we're going to ignore because everyone
3
has to ignore
years-
it because it's really dumb, right?
Yeah.
what? I
3
mean, no,
years-
it's useful. It's communicating to you that this is a fantasy world. That this is not
Yeah.
even.
Yeah, whatever you know about it,
this is-
it's not real.
It makes
it's
you.
like-
It sets the tone of science fantasy versus science fiction.
Yes. You know,
Yeah.
and like, you know, you look at
A long
3
time
years
ago,
after,
you know, like a fairy tale, like right? Yeah.
you know, 3 years after Star Wars, you have Blade Runner that comes out, right? Which really takes this ball and run with it. You have
They
Alien.
were like, what if
which-
it was dirtier?
Yeah,
Yeah,
They
dude.
really
You-
pushed.
you-
They took the knob off dirty all the way up.
Yeah, you think about the way the Nostromo, the ship from Alien, is designed, right? Like, in a pre-Star Wars world, that ship looks drastically different. But in a post, it looks super lived in. And this aesthetic design is, to this day, still used. I mean, it's like, in a lot of ways... I feel like George Lucas gets more credit than, like someone like George Miller, who invented post-apocalypse and is constantly stolen from, and no one is constantly like, oh yeah, we stole this from George Miller, right? People are pretty honest about, like, we clearly stole this from Star Wars, you know? So this, I think, number one, is easily one of the most obvious and important contributions, and in a very clear line of, like, pre-Star Wars, post-Star Wars,
Cool.
right? To this day,
Okay.
everything still is this look, right? And I got to give a shout out to Ralph McQuarrie, who's one of the greatest concept artists, made all the movie posters. He's an incredible animator. He's the guy who did almost all the concept art for Star Wars. He is the guy who George Lucas said, like, I want shit to look used, and he was like, gotcha.
Cool.
Took that ball and ran with it. Ralph McQuarrie, absolute legend.
The concept art looks really cool. It's
Yes.
it's sort of like, imagine if you had a dream after watching Star Wars, I guess, where everything's just like kind of right but kind of wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
It feels like that.
Yeah, but still dirty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I think the Darth Vader concept art makes him look so much more evil to me than he even looks in the movie.
Yeah.
That's what I always love about
Well,
those
in all
pieces.
of the concept art, his cape is flowing, and
Yeah.
in the real movie, his cape mostly just hung straight down.
And also, he has kind of more of a like beak-like thing, like on his
yeah.
face,
True,
that
yeah.
almost makes him look like, I don't know, like more demonic to me.
Yeah, just absolutely super important. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I have a lot of pictures of the Millennium Falcon in here because that is like, you know, that's like when Luke first sees the Millennium Falcon, he calls it a piece of junk.
Yeah.
And in no other science fiction film could that have been true at that point. But like the Millennium Falcon, even though it's so iconic, you look at it, it's just cobbled together.
This is a
garbage,
really
right?
dumb-looking ship. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's dirty as hell. It's grimy. The fact that, like, you can get so much about Han Solo as a character by how the inside of the Millennium Falcon looks. It's like, oh, a bachelor and his weird dog friend live here.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
That's true.
It looks like that.
It's a mess.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. And, like, this design, this used world design is, like, I think, number one, probably one of, like, I think the most important things that Star Wars contribution. So now I'm going to get into the, sort of the technical stuff that it kind of did. One, we got to talk about John Dykstra.
Yeah.
John Dykstra was a
I don't know who
designer
that
at
is, but I just like
ILM.
that look of his. He looks a little Harrison Fordy with his shirt. Only two buttons of his shirt are buttoned while he's holding
It's
an
a
Oscar.
Casually holding his Oscar.
Some
Yeah,
badass
It's a little
look.
Chewbacca also.
Yeah, he's
got a
very-
lot,
yeah.
a lot of good beard going.
Yeah.
So, you know, Star Wars was made with a very low budget. You know, also kind of pre-Star Wars, you know, before Star Wars, if you wanted to make a movie with special effects, the studios would be like, cool, I hope you know it's an effect guy because we don't fucking give a shit, right? That is how all effects were kind of done. You have to sort of figure it out. Fox didn't have a effects company at the house, so that's why George Lucas had to make one, right? So he hired a bunch of people. They had no money, and they had to figure out how to create these effects, right? And John Dykstra invented the Dykstra Flex, which was the very first motion control camera system ever built. This is one of those, another watershed moment. This drastically changed the way movies were made.
So this is a camera with like a Tonka truck arm on top of it on a train track.
Yeah, so it is a camera connected to a computer that can do the same motion over and over and over and over again. So you can capture different layers of it, right? Before this, if they wanted to do the space battles, they were going to have to do them in stop motion. That was the only other option.
And we know the one time they did a stop motion thing, how bad it looked.
Well, fuck off, one. And we're going to get to that in a
Yeah, that Rancor was dope.
Yes, so... Well, no, and actually, Alex... There's a lot more stop
Right.
animation in Star Wars.
I assume there's a lot of other ones, but
the chess part, the chess monster,
great-looking chess monster.
Yeah.
The chess
But-
is okay.
so-
but the Rancor looks like ass, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm specifically referring.
I always like
of
that part where the guy cries after.
That made me
the
so
rain.
sad.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, that made me
That
so
guy's
sad.
like my favorite guy in the whole movie.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I wish the camera just stuck with him and we just followed his adventure
Dude,
for
the
the next
spin-off.
40
Or
minutes.
just like the guy
Yeah.
who's he wants to get revenge on Luke for killing his precious monster. Why
It
would
would've
have
been-
been
but yeah.
instead of half of the other things that happened in
Wait,
sequels?
guys! Oh my God, this is the ending that should have happened at the end of Return of the Jedi, where it's just like you have all the Ewoks celebrating, basically, right? You have and then like on every planet, and then just you zoom on slowly on the sad guy, basically. Where it's
Yeah.
like, one day, and that's
Yeah.
it, right? And then make him
Yeah.
wait like 20 years until we finally
Dude.
find out if he gets revenge.
Dude, yeah, he does, and that's the whole thing. Is like it's like this other movie in like 20 years. He like sets out to like kill Luke Skywalker,
And then
you know?
he does, and he successfully kills
Yeah.
Luke. And then we zoom out from that, and that movie was playing to an audience of young Rancor children who are like, "Yeah, get him!"
See, that's a Star Wars
that's
right
a Star
there.
Yes,
Wars.
that is a war on the stars for
That's
sure.
the one I want. Yeah.
But so the Dijkstrafleck and creating motion control cameras, so many movies that we have watched, like literally Back to the Future would have been impossible to make without the Dijkstrafleck. That's just like a example of a movie that takes this technology and really runs with it. This is one of the most important contributions in movie history. It completely changed the way special effects were done for years, really until the invention of CG. I want to take a quick shout out for another thing that makes Star Wars very special, along with the sort of used aesthetic, is this fucking guy. My boy, Ben Burt. I don't know if you guys know much about Ben Burt.
I don't. He
Ben
looks like
Burt
a
was-
soft-spoken British man.
He's really
no, he's
funny.
not.
He's a really
very
funny guy.
He's an American dude.
Over 2.
He was the sound designer.
Okay, so that may be over on that, but I will say, when you showed me Dykstra, I was like, that guy looks hella Dutch, and it took me a while to figure it out, but because he was born in America, but it's definitely a Dutch name.
All right, it's
Yeah,
one of your
Anyway,
people.
So 1 for 3.
Yeah. Ben Burt did the sound design for Star Wars, a.k.a. I have here it's the best job any sound designer has done ever, but I would argue it's maybe the best job anyone has done at any job ever. And you think about every sound design choice he created for Star Wars, from all the blaster noises, the sound of lightsabers, Darth Vader's breathing, that was his
Insane.
idea. All the O2D2's beeps and boops, the scream the TIE fighters make when they come in
Yeah,
hot.
dude.
Ben Burt is
That's
the
all
reason.
just like it's right there in your like
Yes.
RAM
Yeah.
inside
Yes.
your
And
brain.
you know all
Your
those
brain is
things.
ready to recall all of those sounds at a moment's notice.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's impressive.
He-
Living, it's literally a part of your mind.
What do you know any movies he's done that are not Star Wars movies?
Yes, he's done a million movies.
Okay.
He's also edited movies. He did most of the Star Wars movies. He did all the Indiana Jones movies. He is the reason why the Wilhelm scream
Right.
is a thing. He is the guy. It is an old sound effect.
Yeah.
It was his calling code. He put it in all of his movies.
Yeah, there's
I
And
just a
then
guy
like
other
that
sound
people
design.
use it now. Like I don't like that other people use it because I
Yes,
think
I
it's
don't
cool to be
either.
watching a movie and you don't know that he's doing it, and then that happens and you're like, oh, Ben Burt is doing the sound.
Right.
But
It's-
now
it's
you
kind of
can't
like
trust
the-
For
that.
people who don't know this, so there's a scream. Was the first one in this movie, or was it one of his previous
No,
movies?
No.
it's
Okay.
No,
so one of
this
his previous
was-
movies, and a guy goes,
no. I think this was his.
and then
so
they,
I think
he
Ben
used
Burt.
that in everything.
I think Star Wars was the first real feature he ever worked on.
Oh, okay.
But it's not it's not where this sound effect comes from.
So he took it from another movie, he put it in this,
Yeah.
and it was so iconic, or he enjoyed it so much, he made it iconic by putting it in every other movie he did.
Yes.
And then at some point, like film nerds found out and were like, what a cool thing, let's do that in our movies, and they took it and ran with it, and you want it to be only Ben Burtt's property, but I
just think that's the joke doesn't make sense any other way. You know,
it's kind of like if you started pitting Alfred Hitchcock in your own movies when it's like,
Yeah.
no, Alfred Hitchcock is his signature is that he's in his
funny.
movies.
That's really
You don't
good.
pit him in
Also,
your movies.
Similarly,
Like,
I
that's
do
weird,
start
right?
every podcast with DJ Khaled yelling, another one.
Another one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that.
yeah.
That's
but
such
yeah,
a good
Ben,
idea. If you just put Alfred Hitchcock in your movies without his permission, that's funny.
Yeah.
I think
Wait,
it's okay now, actually.
Wait. Can you get DJ Khaled to do the Wilhelm scream, and then but like have the face of Hitchcock? Can we get that to be our signature somehow?
The distinctive chin and side face, yeah.
Yes.
So, Ben Burt, absolute legend.
Yeah.
He's worked on one of your favorite movies, Ben Burt has worked on. He's
Okay.
not just a sound designer, he's also an award-winning editor. He's an incredible career, super talented guy.
It's probably we should point out. He's such a cool guy. He deserves to have his name spelled correctly. So I've updated.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
Same with Dykstra. We were a little off on Dykstra. We're caught up.
I went through this real fast last night.
I understand.
Right?
Ben Burt, 2 T's for those listening at home. That's all.
Oh,
You know.
bonus T. That's signature also.
Yeah, exactly.
That
so,
second T is like
you know, real fast, real quick watershed lighting round. Star Wars completely changed the way film compositing was done. It absolutely very, very important. For that, it completely changed the way blue screen technology was done by using better lighting and shooting it in new ways. Its use of matte painting was done in ways it's never done before. The idea of your credits being at the end of your movie instead of all at the beginning, that is Star Wars. Star Wars is the reason why that is a thing.
crazy. So much easier to leave when it's at the end. If it's at the beginning.
I was thinking about this last night, about how like movies today have so many people who work on them. Could you imagine if you had to sit through 15 minutes
insane.
of credits for movies?
Yeah.
Well, there was a weird thing though for the old movies also. So like the thing they would have at the end of old movies was trailers because they'd be trailing the movie.
And
and they'd be like
so much more sense.
right? And
Why
so
are
we
these
like
trailers leading the cars. This is the cart before the horse. That's such a good point. I didn't realize that.
So all of these things were just the first movie, right? And again, there's even more stuff that the first movie did I don't want to get into. And every Star Wars movie after this would eventually add some stuff that completely changed the way movies are made. So going back to the stop motion thing, I got to talk about Phil Tippett, who, by the way, this is not a mugshot of him. This is just what he looks like now.
and
It's
to describe it, this is imagine you see a
mugshot.
dude with a good beard and just some eyes that are staring into your soul.
Yeah.
That's Phil Tippett.
Yeah.
But Phil Tippett is an animating genius. He just released a really awesome stop animation passion project called Mad God. You can watch online. It's fucking incredible.
Ooh.
But Phil Tippett and his team used motion control cameras to invent Go Motion, which is how stop animation is still done to this day. There would not be Leica if it wasn't for his work on Empire Strike Back.
I should be clear. I do think the Rancor looks really weird in this movie. I love stop motion. I don't think it always combines nicely with actual motion. And also, I will say calling it Go Motion is a little cheesy. It's like,
But
our
on
stop
Empire
motion has
Strikes
more
Back-
action. It's called Go Motion. That feels like one of those people who's like, we don't have problems, we have challenges or whatever. You know what I mean?
But on Empire Strikes Back, he did it for the
Tauntauns.
the Tauntaun
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
at the beginning,
Yeah.
right? Which actually I think looks really good. But that's because like
Yeah, they
the
look
snow and is blurring it everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's kind of covered. But like this was really, really important to the art of stop animation. Like I said, Leica still uses a version of this technology that they invented on Empire Strikes Back. Return of the Jedi had, very advanced 3D wireframing, which sounds very silly today. But in 1983, again, this was fucking mind-blowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, pitting up wireframes on screen, having it on, like, rotated surfaces in front of you. this was like the most advanced thing you could do with computers at the time.
And if you can't picture it, this is like Rebels are trying to figure out like exactly like the little cool video, the training video. It's like, all right, this is how we shoot the thing. This is the planning thing. That wireframe.
Yes,
stuff.
exactly. This was also the first film to use THX sound mixing, which absolutely set a new standard for audio in theaters, right? Like this, your home theater systems that you have today would probably not exist if it wasn't for the work that THX did in changing the way movies sound, right? So the original trilogy has so much incredible stuff, but now, you guys, I need to go up to the future. I need to go into the year 2002. Okay, so you guys, I need you to stay calm for this next part, all right? All right? Things are about to get a little fucking weird.
It's not weird with you. You've always been an apologist.
A little hyperbolic.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, are we going to see a
maybe a little
gooberfish?
scary. No.
Is it gooberfish time?
But just trust me.
We just
we
need
need
some
to
more
talk.
Gungans.
We need to talk about Episode 2,
Oh.
Attack of the Clones. I don't know if you guys know this about Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm.
But Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, is probably one of the most important films ever made. It is...
This is exhausting.
From a certain point
one
of
of
view.
the biggest, from a certain point of view, it is one of the most important watershed moments in the history of movies. All right, every movie that has been released in the last 21 years owes something to Attack of the Clones. All right?
Which is why
So-
they've gotten so bad. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
That's why, you know how like movies suck now.
Yeah,
That's why.
It was a watershed moment where they were like, sequels do not have to be better. Before that, it was just Godfather, and then they were like, no, look, you can do a second movie that's much worse than the original.
Yeah, dude.
Yes. But okay, so let me just
Wait, is that a
kinda paint-
gooberfish?
Yeah, as added the
yes, I
gooberfish
added
for you.
gooberfish.
Okay,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Gooberfish
let me just-
looks like a blue fish. Got some spikes coming down. Spikes going up. Looks
Looks
like
a
it might eat
bit of
you.
a goober.
Let me just kind of set the stage. So I want to kind of, I'm sure you guys know this, but I really want to paint a picture for you. Let me explain to you how every movie before Attack of the Clones was made. Every single movie was made like this, all right? So here's what you used to do. You would show up at the set, a bunch of actors and crew. You would film with on film magazines, right? That had 10 minutes of film of them, right? So if you're shooting a take, like you're on your third take and an actor's doing a long scene, that film runs out, you got to stop. The actor gets fucked up. You know, it becomes a whole thing on set. So you're shooting on film. Then once you were done with that magazine, you would take it out, make sure you document very clearly exactly what's on that. You'd put that away. You would send that off to get processed. You would not know if the shot turned out good until 24 hours later, right? At most, what you had was a small 4-inch black and white video screen that would show you kind of what the shot you just what it looked like. You wouldn't know till the next day if it was blown out, if it was out of focus, or there was a continuity error, and if you were shooting a movie and you had just stripped that set, or you only had that set for the one day, and you watched the dailies the next day, and something is bad, you were fucked. You had to figure out something, right? And then they would take that film, and they would send it to editors, right? And now a lot of times there's stories about like film, especially like international shoots. Like the film would get open in customs, and the customs would expose it to light and ruin all the things you just shot. Like that has happened multiple times. But if that didn't happen, you would send your film to the editors. The editors would hand cut the film together, scene by scene, frame by frame, hoping they didn't accidentally lose a frame, hoping they didn't damage anything. Then you would take that film, once you cut it together, you would send it to some other people. They would have big baths of chemicals that they would soak your film in with a stopwatch to make sure it wasn't in there for too long to do the color correcting right, all right? And then what they would do is they would have your finished film. They would take your finished negative. They would make a copy of it, and then they would make a copy of that, and then they would use those copies to mass produce prints, right? That would get sent out to theaters. And if your print you got was made from that second or third copy, it would be a worse quality than the original master negative, right? And then they would send maybe that bad quality copy out to a movie theaters where some dumbass stoner projectionist would fuck something up, the film would get damaged, it would get scratched. If there was a brain wrap, they would just take it and cut out a few frames, and then they would tape it back together inside the projector.
So you're saying it was a pretty easy process?
Yeah, it's an easy process,
yeah, you're
right?
saying it was really smooth
chill.
and
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
And then
So-
you did not take a random swipe at projectionists, a dying art form.
I was
which,
a projectionist for 10 years, dude.
Yeah,
I
I
have a lot of
realize you're the
respect
stoner
for it. Yes.
projectionist in the story.
Yes, I'm talking about myself here.
Well, you
Yeah,
should
yeah.
say
Wait,
that
wait.
projectionist will splice a single frame of a penis in the middle of that family
Yes.
film.
Fight Club.
Yeah.
That's a watershed
Or, like-
moment right there.
Thank you.
Yes. Like, I guarantee every single one of us, because of the time we grew up, saw a movie in the theater that was missing frames, right? That was doctored by a projectionist because they had to. It all has happened to us probably at least once, all right? So that was the process that literally every film
I want my money
before
back.
Attack of the Clones
I'm going to
went
go ask
to.
for my money back for anything
Yeah,
I saw
give us the
before
money.
Attack of the
Yeah, yeah, I
Clones.
missed these frames.
Hey, I saw Speed here in 1999,
And, I was
and
like,
it was
this
missing
bus is
frames.
going 1/29th of a second faster than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, question, Anthony, real question.
Yes.
You're saying there is an issue at customs sometimes. In your estimation, how many brave editors smuggled that footage internally in order to get through customs?
In the
do you
back
think?
pocket.
Again, probably more than zero, right? I mean, realistically, right?
Well, especially
just
in
one
this
check.
film, because he did a lot of his recording just over the border so that he wouldn't have to pay union rates.
So, this
I'm just saying, there's a lot
The
of
point
watersheds.
is-
He changed the industry in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
the point is the fact that any movie even today, the fact that a single good movie has ever been made is fucking mind blowing.
Yeah, it's-
right?
every movie
the
is a
amount
miracle.
of work and everything that has to go into
Mm-hmm.
it. All right, so what Attack of the Clones did and how it changed it was the first film entirely shot with digital cameras. It was the first film to have an entirely digital post-production pipeline, and it was the first film to be digitally distributed and projected. Something literally every movie made in the last 21 years has done at least two of the three of. All right, so the way they shot Attack of the Clones was they used these digital cameras that they co-developed with Sony that were literally finished days before filming commenced. The serial numbers on the cameras were 001 through 0004, right? They were the first 4 digital cameras ever made for shooting a movie with, all right? The way they would make Attack of the Clones is they would set up these cameras, they would film a scene with it, immediately be able to throw their footage up on a 40-inch plasma HD color television where everyone could gather around and review the shots from the directors, the actors, the hair, the makeup, the continuity.
Yeah.
They could then send that footage to an editing team that was around the corner who could immediately start digitally editing. That means they could literally watch rough cuts of scenes they shot that morning, that afternoon.
Yeah.
All right?
I just gotta say real
Yeah.
quick. I've heard, like, I know all this about Attack of the Clones, and the thing that every time I think about this, the thing that blows my mind about it is that all of this technology to me suggests that now you can be really meticulous about the movies
Yeah.
and really stress on all the finer details.
And
Attack of the Clones may be the most chill, who gives a fuck movie I've ever seen in my life. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like whatever. That's good.
All of that pipeline, Hunter, was so that they could get the footage right away, put it up on a plasma HD television screen, and then go, "Yep, nailed it in one," and then move on to the next shot. That's why
It's
they
just
built
crazy
that
because it
pipeline.
feel. But like the whole point of this, right, is like we could do a million takes like now. You know what I mean? We could know. We know exactly what we're getting. You could really like fine tooth comb through the entire movie, and that is not like
No, look,
maybe
it's just-
maybe you like
instead-
that movie. That's cool, but it's not like a meticulous movie. You know?
No, he did it for fucking children. And if you still can't get that in 2023, I don't know what to say for you. There's a reason why kids fucking love these movies, right? why you love the
there's
ones
good,
as a
good
kid.
movies for kids and bad movies for kids. I don't know why we have to just say we don't.
Okay,
Well,
so here,
yes.
I can weigh in on this one. I have human
Okay,
children.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yes,
And Attack of the Clones is there one? They don't.
No. Episode 1, real big fans of. Definitely watched it multiple times. Caleb is still a little scared. Like it's a little. He can't quite get through a decapitation scene yet in Attack of the
I can
Clones.
see that, yeah.
I think
I
is
hear
where
you.
Speed
it's
is
at.
definitely Senate
Oh, yeah.
negotiations. The decapitation is too gnarly. He wants.
I mean, it's a
Just
bummer
go
to
back to the
hold your
Senate.
dad's head. I guess that's it. I think that's what.
That
yeah,
is
that's,
a pretty
that's,
wild
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
in
It's a
that
bummer,
movie.
it's a bummer.
Like that's insane.
Yeah, but it's a kids
But-
movie, so it's fine.
It is a kids movie.
Yes, but my point is,
We
like,
know we hear
it
your
is-
point. We just
it is-
also the
no.
movie is hard to watch.
yeah. Again, I agree. I'm not a fan of it either. It's
Yeah.
my least favorite of the original George Lucas 6 for sure. But I just like it is the type of thing. Every once in a while, I think about this kind of stuff, and it just like it blows my mind how forward thinking even a bad movie is, and like how important even a bad movie can be, and the fact that like every film, literally since Attack of the Clones, has been made differently than every film was made for 100 years before that. It's so impressive to me. The
I do
work
think this
and
is.
engineering
I
and
agree with
everything that
this,
went.
and I do think there's a very important thing, which is that whether a movie is a good movie is such a small part of it being a movie.
Sure.
That's like a
Yeah.
tiny, tiny part. There's so much else going on, and what I like the thing about that sound editor that we were talking about, Bert with 2 T's or whatever. Coolest guy ever. But if that movie had been a worse script, it wouldn't be like, wow, the sound editing saved it. It's like he got to all that stuff is cool, and we know about it because it was also a good movie.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Well, I mean,
It's just
there's
one,
also
like,
like
the
this-
movie being good is like this is one of its 100 qualities, and there's a
Right.
lot of else going on. And in this case, also
Well,
like the digital pipeline to watching it on TV is like also one of the facets of this movie.
Yeah. And I think if you really wanted to get into like the deep psychology of George Lucas here, like I don't think he would say he did it for the young filmmakers. I think the reason why, like even that's like a huge benefit that outweighs anything else with it. The real reason why I believe he did this, so I don't know if you know this, but on the making of Star Wars, George Lucas at like 20 something years old or 30, early 30s, I forget how old he was, he had a fucking heart attack, a stress-induced heart attack from the making of Star Wars because it was such a nightmare. It is why he never directed again until the prequels. And I truly believe that a part of him, even if he didn't want to admit it, was like, making that movie sucks so much that if I'm going to do it again, I'm going to make it as easy on me as
Yeah, dude.
humanly possible.
I do feel
Video
the
Village,
script,
baby.
The script
Yeah.
of this movie was set up to make sure he didn't have a heart attack.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he just got to play with new
look,
toys.
that is very reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sat down. Everyone else did the hard work around him, and he went, "Oh, that's great. I love it." You know, like that was his thing every day, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to have another fucking heart attack making these movies. I mean, like that is to me when I think of the effort of the prequels. That's what really comes off. Is I do not want to have another heart attack.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I'm gonna take it real easy, and everything's gonna be super fucking chill. So on my final point here, I do kind of want to bring up sort of what I feel. I do genuinely feel like, again, I don't want to get into the quality of the Disney Star Wars stuff, but I kind of feel like this spirit has been lost in their films. In a lot of ways, they've actually kind of regressed in technology, which is something that really upsets me. Like it's neat that J.J. Abrams demanded that all the sequel trilogy be shot on film, but I think that's a stupid idea. I think like the idea of Star Wars going back inherently makes it non-Star Wars, right? This driving technology, along with the stories and stuff, is a part of it, and like I think like that regressive view feeds into the stories. It feeds into the quality of the movies. This is why The Force Awakens is basically just a remake of A New Hope, right? Because everything goes in that, and the actual making of the movie has that philosophy of, oh, we're gonna go back to how it used to be, and that is so anti what I think makes Star Wars special. And I think that as long as Disney refuses to look forward with Star Wars, not just in stories, but I'm talking about in the technology they use, they're never going to get there. There is obviously one incredible major innovation that Star Wars did bring, and that is
What was
Baby
Yoda like
Yoda.
as a baby? Yep.
Yeah, what was Yoda like as a baby? But no, the truth is the LED volume.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which,
that thing's cool.
Which is certainly, I think, much better for television than it is for movies. I've only liked one movie that's used it, and that was Matt Reeves' The Batman. Like that's the only movie I have seen that uses like a huge amount of the volume that blew my mind when I learned it uses the volume. I could not.
I love its
believe it.
goals though, because I think the thing that, not to say more bad things about the prequel trilogy, but I think part of the innovation that it brought is that I think it made the job of being an actor in a movie like that like so much harder, and I still think that's very true. And I love the goal of this technology being, let's give the actors like very real, tangible stuff to see and interact with. Yeah, 'cause I think it is a lot to expect,
and
like
and
someone to
we'll put
nail
a bucket
it
over his head so you can't see any of his acting.
Well, that is kind of that is a little bit where it gets a little bit muddy as far as the goal.
No face and a puppet will be the only
That's a very good
to this
point.
volume.
Listen, we're bringing a lot here so you can see some stuff, but we don't want to see your face at all, buddy.
You guys, you know the helmet and armor is them showing off the technology, right? Like,
sure.
If you try to shoot the Mandalorian on any other type of like how they shot the prequels, you literally could not do it. You could not have a character who was a giant mirror, right, on a blue screen or green screen set. You could not do that. You can only have a character like the Mandalorian, someone who's a big shiny reflective surface on a volume. Right.
But you could. All you do is you would make his armor look a little more lived-in sci-fi. Just muddy it up a little bit.
Right.
Dip that shiny metal in some mud.
Yeah. But on my final note, I just want to say, I hope Disney and Lucasfilm find that spirit again of innovation. But if not, we always got the goddamn king, James Cameron, still. At least Cameron's still out there.
That's a guy who knows the technology is only ever used in service of a good story. That's the king of the good
always every
story.
Time. Avatar 2, Way of the Water.
You're joking. That Avatar 2 Way of the Water freaking owns, dude. It's a great movie. James Cameron.
This is a fun thing about our podcast, is having the only person who believes that on the show every week. It's given this false sense of how much people like that movie.
Hold on. I'm sure James Cameron's also believe this. Though I believe there's two, and I believe there's more James Stammerins than there are
Have I said this on the show that I think we should stop using Stan? I love it. It's such a funny joke. But I think he kills his wife. That's literally what Stan is known for, is putting his wife in the trunk and driving into the ocean. And I just feel like...
I didn't know this.
Stan comes from the Eminem song.
It's from the Eminem song Stan, and he is the super passionate fan.
It's not a real person. It's not a real person.
Eminem that he drives a car full of his wife off a bridge. And I think that is a weird it was really funny when people on Tumblr started saying it originally, or wherever, like whatever part of the internet it burbled up.
Okay,
so it's a funny idea.
Real quick, can we beat it then? Can we beat this? What's better than Stan?
What's a good fictional fan that shows like the epitome of obsessive fandom?
I think we should just take Swifties for all type of fans.
Oh,
right?
it's just what kind of Swiftie are you?
What kind of Swiftie
You're a James Cameron Swiftie.
A Swiftie also has that same intent. Like you hear Swiftie, and you just know that's an intense fan.
Yeah, dude.
You know it is. I mean, so like that kind of fits to kind of loop it back around, you know? Because like George Lucas says, it's like poetry. It rhymes, you know?
All right. Well, with that, we're going to move on. We got to rank it. We got to find out where this lands on the master list. But first, I want to let you know that this episode of the show, like all episodes of the show, are brought to you by our lovely patrons at patreon.com/BTEpod. You can become a bestie and help support the show with the only way we know how to receive support, which is financially. Patreon.com/BTEpod. We really appreciate everybody who supports the show. You can get some great things like thank you segments on the show. You can get merch. Ezra, do you have a question?
Did you mean to call them BTE Swifties?
Yes, of course. You can be one of our Swifties. A best thing ever Swiftie.
Let's make this happen, you guys.
Just
start calling.
It already works.
Just every listener tomorrow, just at work, just casually drop, I'm a real Swiftie for this coffee.
I like it.
Right?
Yeah. What are you a Swiftie of? We're all Swifties of something.
I think it's
good.
We're
all Swifties of something.
I Swift this coffee. Also, Patreon just announced that they're rolling out a feature where you can have a free tier with your Patreon, and so we're going to figure out a thing to offer so you can become a free Patreon. Because I like having people be involved, and so I'm going to figure out what we can do at the free level. So that all that and more is coming up. But we really appreciate everybody who supports us financially. That is also useful in the long run. We need the money to buy stuff.
Nailed it.
Star Wars stuff,
Got it in
dude.
one. Let's keep it. All right, and now it is time for the all-important ranking. We need to rank Star Wars on the master list of the best things ever. Hunter, will you please read the previous... I think 20 is my max. After this, we will only read chunks, but there's only 19 up there, so please read all of the things in order that are the best things.
Number 1, warm beverages, firefighters, Zelda, arcades, human children, My Neighbor Totoro, pro wrestling, romance novels, trees, advice columns, variety, like there being different stuff. The Sun, fresh bread, Nordic track, stand-up comedy, powerlifting, cat videos, playing Halo with the boys, Waffle House.
All right, I'm going to start out the bidding. I think Star Wars is 18th. I think it's right below cat videos, just above Halo with the boys.
Just above Halo with the boys, huh? You're going to dumpster it, and you're not even going to throw me a little bone. You're going to dumpster it, and you're not even just going to throw me a little bone. You're like, I think we should dumpster it, but in a way that makes Hunter feel bad, too.
I mean, you have the bottom two. I think you got to keep them. The thing is, if it's below playing Halo with the boys, you can't have it go down twice and loop back to first. So this is actually helping you out by giving you a buffer. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I think Star Wars is for human children, so it should be around human children. I think that's where I think we should almost make them co-5. You know what I mean? I think 5 should be Star Wars, and then human children, and then 6 is My Neighbor Totoro. I think that is.
I think that's a good place.
I just want to say real quick why I feel like dumpstering this is like. Everything you just said, Anthony, was really interesting, and I loved that presentation, and I do think it's all important and good. But also, what Disney has done with Star Wars, it's not even about story. It's just about how much Star Wars there is. And Star Wars went from being like one of the most special things in my life that I adored and I wanted to learn everything about in its small way to being like... I might be in a Star Wars right now. There's so much Star Wars everywhere. I feel like I'm breathing Star Wars around. The first time I saw cardboard cutouts of stormtroopers in the entrance to a Target, I was like, this is not fun anymore for me. It's just so big and ubiquitous and corporate feeling that my interest in it has been just beaten down by its existence everywhere.
That's another thing about Lucas compared to Disney is that the fact that like the prequels were hated at the time, but Lucas stuck with his guns and he kept making them. The fact that Disney had one movie that a lot of vocal people hated online, and they immediately kowtowed to him.
They were like, we've upset the Nazis, we need to change plans.
I know where I want to put it.
Well, you've convinced me, Anthony. I'm going to say 17. It's just above cat videos.
I'm going to have to say 11 makes a lot of sense because this is the first time I think I saw more than one sun at once.
Oh, that's true. There were 2 suns there.
So right above the sun, I think makes a lot of sense. We got at least 2 suns, and there's lots of stars there, and so it's multiple stars, multiple wars.
I do like it being with the sun in a space vibe, in a space.
I think you
area.
could do no lower. Yeah. It can be no lower than 11. So I think I could get up higher. But I think that's the lowest I could possibly go.
Wait, if it was right above the sun, it would be 12. But yeah,
right. Well, okay, yeah, bumping it down.
Hunter, where do you come in this?
I think that in general, I'm less attracted to like whether something was a watershed or not is something that I can appreciate. But I think I like refined works more than things that get a lot of credit for like inventing a lot of stuff. And I don't want to downplay. Something being watershed, but in the interest of consistency, on my other show, on Old Gamer's Almanac, I have kind of downplayed how much I like The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and that's a watershed game. But I just think, and it's a very important game, and it's an amazing, like, magical thing. I just think that later people looked at all of that work, and then they made a more, like, refined product. And I enjoy that, even though that refinement, as far as the work they're doing, is less. They didn't have to make all this stuff up.
Yeah.
That the elegance of looking at the kind of rough draft of everything and saying, here's actually the really smart, kind of smooth way to do this. That's the stuff that really lives with me. I think
love that. I
longer.
totally agree with that. And I feel like there's that one movie where all the people are walking out of their factory and then it's over. That movie is like such a watershed in the history of filmmaking.
Well,
the movie where the train kind of comes at the audience and then it doesn't hit them.
Sure.
Like huge watershed moments. I'm gonna curtail this because my wife has to go to bed. So here's my feeling. I know where I think this should be emotionally, but my feeling about Star Wars has not changed Star Wars from happening. I can't stop it. It feels inevitable. It's everywhere all the time, and my distaste of it is not successful. So I am I am open to wherever you guys want to put it because it feels appropriate that Star Wars happens to me whether I like it or not.
Okay. I'll just throw out then, in the interest of, I don't know what Nordic track is. How about we put it above Nordic track? Also, I wasn't on the Human Children episode. I would not have approved of Human Children being so high. And I just want to say for the record, if had I been on that episode, I would have talked about how much. I mean, I'm sure the kids are. Again, if they're your kids, it's cool, I'm sure they're great or whatever. I just don't like them, and I think they suck.
What if? Okay, how would you feel though if Human Children shared its spot with Star Wars, though? Would that make you feel better about Human Children being on the list?
I would just like to point out, Hunter, that this is what happens. You miss school, you miss out.
You miss school, you missed out.
We watched the Goonies.
There are several things on here that you and I don't know. It is a chicken and egg problem. Would you have changed its voting, or would the presentation have changed your opinion? We can't tell which is which. Either way, I know where it wouldn't be. But that's what happens when you are too busy flying home to New York.
It's See, that's just how it is.
Here's my thing. My wife doesn't have to go to bed, so I got no problem being here all night, Alex.
I need someone to propose a solution quickly.
Yeah,
I've submitted my vote. That's it.
I agree a lot with Ezra. I honestly think split it straight down the middle. Give it like 10 or 11. I would be completely happy with
things,
it.
and I think that's one of the fascinating things about this list is us being cowards over and over and over again. This is what happens.
I'm not being a coward. I genuinely believe that that's a good spot for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Ezra was right with like the sun thing and I don't know. I think if you gave this 10, I think that's kind of where it deserves to be because of all the bad stuff that if we were counting just the good stuff, it would probably need to be 1 or 2. But if you have to count all the bad stuff, I think that balances it out to being about 10.
Of course.
Yeah, it's right because this is the sun-based thing, right? So it's like once again, 2 suns more powerful than 1 sun, but again, not as powerful as trees, which can block the sun. I think makes perfect sense. So it has to be. I
think we've settled this. Is this okay with you, Hunter?
I'm absolutely okay with it.
Is above Nordic track for you, below Human Children, but
I have to go on record. I do not love that you called it Human Children instead of just kids. I feel like that is the weirdest way to say those words.
It's so important that we don't think it's baby goats. I was trying to help people understand.
The way you say Human Children makes it be clear that you are not a human. It's like you're a vampire who loves a specific kind of child to eat, which is the human child.
I like Human Children because it sounds like we're talking about like a prog rock album that is like the fifth best thing in the world.
Children.
Fucking Rush's Human Children is a goddamn
masterpiece.
Dude.
All right, Star Wars is the new 10th best thing of all time. Please send your hate mail to us at our email address, which I will say later because I don't remember it until I look at it. Before we go, I want to do a little bit of business. I want to read one letter. This is mostly for Ezra. Everyone else is welcome to listen if they choose or not. This is from Destiny, longtime friend of the show, longtime supporter of the show, bestie, Swifty for our show. This was a read and weep Swifty from back in the day. Destiny says, okay, Ezra. So the breakdown would most likely be the staple length of the fibers you'd find in your lint trap. So staple length refers to the length of the individual fibers. So if you picture like a ball of fluff, it has thousands of individual fibers in it. And each one of those has a length. That's the staple length. In spinning yarn, the individual fibers are being twisted together. And this twist is what makes the fibers grab onto each other. So longer staple length makes for more easy spinning generally because you're spinning. You're also pulling the fibers apart to create length and thinness, right? You're stretching them. The shorter the staple length, the easier it is for the strand you're creating to break apart as you're spinning it. So shorter staple length also makes for weaker yarn. a hairier yarn, bits with fiber that will stick out, and a less durable yarn. It'll break down quickly, and whatever you've made will develop holes and pill faster. So in short staple wool, not in short. So short staple wool for spinning is maybe 2 inches. Short staple cotton for spinning is maybe about 1 inch. The stuff that is sloughed off bare clothes in the dryer isn't even close to 1 inch long. Just for funsies, I pulled a handful of lint out of my dryer and tried to see if I could figure out the staple length, but the bits of the fiber were so small, I couldn't even see them. It just kind of crumbled. It was more like cotton dust. I don't think it would ever be spinnable. I bet you could get it wet and make a nice paper, though. So your meta sweater is not a possibility, but you might be able to do a meta cloth of some kind, like cloth paper of some kind. That might be interesting. Maybe you guys, you and I could write our next book on lint trap paper.
There'll be a limited edition book that we can release.
Very limited edition.
I was actually going to say all that last week.
I know, it's weird
I
you
didn't get
mentioned
into it. It's weird. It was like right on the tip of my tongue, but
So-
I was going to say all that.
So just a reminder, this is from several weeks ago in our variety episode. Hunter, you were not here for it. One of the topics we talked about in our variety episode was Ezra's idea for a meta sweater. Could you knit a sweater out of just the lint in your lint trap? And Destiny, longtime Swiftie of the show, who owns a wonderful yarn shop in Seattle, is a knitting enthusiast and proponent, took the time to go
Very
to a
cool.
dryer and check for staple length
All the way
on
to
her
the
lint and
dryer.
was unable to come up with it. And
Insane, Destiny.
absolutely heroic work, Destiny. Thank you so much for putting in the time and for helping us out and for crushing Esther's dream of the meta sweater.
Crazy is there's no way Destiny was the first person to do that, right? Somebody else has definitely tried that.
Destiny
with
is the
lint.
first person to do it for our show.
For us, for sure.
I
but
believe, but yeah.
it's just one of the craziest things about the world.
Next week,
Hell,
this topic is not
yes.
going to be Avatar 2: The Way of Water.
I don't know. You left it blank, so it kind of has to be whatever I wrote.
I don't
Can
think that's what.
Yeah, can I
I don't
just
think that's how it
can I
works.
just say, Alex, you genuinely made me so happy when you were shitting on Avatar 2: The Way of Water. Because here's the thing. We went through 13 fucking years of people saying no one cares about Avatar, no one likes Avatar. Then the sequel made $2.3 billion.
And no
you
one cares
immediately
still.
like,
It's the craziest thing to have a movie be in the top 3 top selling movies of all time, and literally, except for you, no one ever talks about it. It's craziness. It's so interesting to make a movie where everyone
I know
felt like they had to
people who
see
talk-
it, and it had the impact on everybody of a little bit of water. It was
I
like
just-
everyone
I
had a
love
sip
the-
of water and was like 6 years like water. Everyone drinks water, but people don't talk that off. Actually, people on the internet talk too much about water.
see, this,
the point
this
is,
is
no
what's
one
so
cares
awesome
about this movie.
is, no, we get another 10 years of this. I really thought maybe Avatar 2 being so successful would shut most people up,
God.
but I should have known better because that's awesome. I'm so happy that we get another 10 years of you saying no one cares about Avatar. And then the third one's going to come out and it's going to make another $2.5 billion and you're going to say no one
I
cares.
suspect,
And then the fourth one's
actually,
going to come out.
That Avatar 3 will not do nearly as well. I think there's going to be a significant
Don't
fall
say
off.
that.
We
Don't
should
say
bet.
no.
Alex,
Don't
right
say
now.
that.
Oh my God, Alex,
Don't
Alex,
say that.
Alex, let's fucking bet right now. Let's do it. We will check back on this. Say it again. Look me in my
Don't.
eyes and tell me Avatar
I'm just trying to
3
figure out. I'm
won't
trying to
do
figure
as
out
well as Avatar
what I
2.
should bet with you.
Yeah.
Should it
We
be
can talk
an
about it off air.
Should it be amount of water? Should I bet you a gallon of
No,
water?
no. We gotta bet something real because I'm gonna make you hurt for this. I just look me in the eyes. I'm gonna make you.
Whoa, I got it.
Yeah,
No,
as
no.
please.
How about this? How about
Naming
this?
rights for your left hand.
No. It's simple. It's simple. It's simple.
I like that.
It's simple. If
React.
Avatar 3 makes
More money than Avatar
as
2.
much or have more money than Avatar 2,
Yeah.
you
I'll
have to
give you as
watch
much
all
in case they
3.
exactly tie.
yeah.
I'll let you have
It
the
has to
tie.
be.
You have to
exact,
watch.
though.
You can come up with something for me to do, but if Avatar 3 makes as much or more money than Avatar 2, I want you to watch all 3 Avatar movies once a week for a week, once a day for a week, something
Whoa.
crazy like
That's
that.
it. Whoa.
No, I
Oh,
have
that's-
too, I
that's
have
too
busy
extreme.
for
That's
that,
not even
but I will
possible.
say,
No.
I will watch
Just
all 3 of them
if
in
it
a
makes-
row without a break.
Yeah.
All 3 in a row.
Once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one
Without a
one
break.
day.
I'll do
And
that.
in exchange, naming rights for Anthony's elbow.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't want to
sure.
name anything. I'll think of what I'm going to make you watch, and we'll
Yeah.
decide on that later, so that my wife can go to bed. But I will watch, and I will say I watched the first one. I don't remember anything about it because no one does. But I have not seen the second one, so it'll be new to me when I watch those three.
Exactly. When you watch all 3 avatars in one day,
yeah.
because you're going to watch
Avatar
all
3 is
3
gonna make
avatars
less
in
money
one
than
day.
Avatar 2. It's just no way. All right. That's
We
not
went through
next week.
13 years of people saying Avatar 2. Oh my God!
I think I'm mad
so
about.
excited
I'm
that
like
we're
on
back here.
Alex's side, but I'm mad that he's made the wrong. Like that the bet is wrong. Like Avatar 3 will absolutely make.
Yo,
a
Hunter, you want to do a
disappointing
side
amount
bet?
of money,
Side
but
bet
I
with me,
don't care.
Hunter?
Look, all I'm saying, I'm sure it'll be a disappointingly large amount of money. My point is, the long wait is one of the things that made people curious about where Avatar 2 would go. But the third thing is,
Or it could just be that people like Avatar and they're a good time
People
at the
do
movie
really like
theater.
Avatar.
Got a lot of
Yeah,
Navi Swifties over
Here's
here.
things people have done: voted for Trump, and they like Avatar, dude. Don't
look,
trust
dude,
people.
I've met normies. I just don't think. I just think the third of a thing is such a disappointing idea. The novelty of 2 is so much more of a banger. This is not even a crazy bet for me. 2s of movies do better than the 3rds of movies most of the time. This is like
the sequel does worse. The third one always does better. That is
Yeah.
true. You can look
Return
up
of the
all
King,
movie
right?
history. Yes, Return of the King, Return of the Jedi. Like literally,
only, but those,
in
you
movie
two examples,
series-
they both have "return" in the title. I feel like that's a biased.
Spider-Man
Yo, you better watch your
Spider-Man-
butt if it
We
says
don't know
Return of
the
the title. If
Avatar
it's Return of
3.
Yeah.
Water,
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3.
We
The
need to
second
go.
one
I need
always
to go.
dips.
I
The
need
third
to
one
go.
always does
Okay,
best.
all right.
That's
Gotta
you
go.
I am happy
Gotta
to be on
go.
the right side of history for this, and if people spend too much money, also adjusted for inflation, just to be clear. All right, we're moving on.
Hold on, sneaking
All
it
right,
in there.
Our show, our theme music is by @Matrix. Our logo designed by @Tom Typography. We're on Instagram @BTE Pod. You can find us on YouTube @Alex Falcone. You can leave us a honest 5-star review on Apple Podcast, and you can email us mail @bestthingeverpodcast.com. Our producers are the Ranger Patrick, John the Consigliere, the Duke of Jill, Best Assistant Regional Manager Sean, and Claire TBD. You can find me on TikTok @Alex_Falcone, and with no underscore, just @Alex Falcone on Threads or on Blue Sky. I'm available, whichever, if you're a cool kid or a normie, I'm available on your Twitter clone of choice. Ezra, you can be found at deletethis.newsletter.substack.com.
Yep.
And Anthony Lopez is, thank you for being here. And Hunter Donaldson, you can listen to his other podcast, Old Gamers Almanac, where he also dumpsters things that were changing of history, but were not as fun to play now. Mm-hmm. Right? All right, and then to go back to our 3 truths and a lie game, Ezra was the lie. As far as I know, he's never found a fried mouse in his chicken nuggets. I just made that up.
Wait, you did wrote for a topless magazine?
I did. I wrote for
What's a topless magazine?
I couldn't think of a better way to describe it. It was like, so it was crazy. So it was called Top Pair. It was started by a former Playboy model, and it was Top Pair was a pun because it was topless ladies and poker. Aces, Top Pair. So it was a poker magazine with nudity, is what it was.
So it was a breast fetish magazine. It wasn't like an
With poker.
all-around porn magazine.
Well,
it was specifically.
it was fetish specifically. It was just like, it was mild nudity. It was like PG-13 nudity. It was not full frontal. It was just toplessness, but that and poker columns. And I was a poker columnist for 3 issues. It was my first ever writing job.
It's a weird title though, because I don't think there's a middle pair. Or like top pair includes other pairs.
On a sow or something, yeah.
Okay, well, all right.
Cats have many pairs. There
Okay,
is middle
good for
pair
them.
on like a Texas Hold'em board for sure. You could have middle pair, but
Okay.
it doesn't work both ways. But both humans and poker has top pairs, so that's why you use that.
Top pair.
Obviously, you are very confident in your betting skills, as we saw here just a minute ago. Alex, I'm so happy you
I've
made
already
that
won
bet.
that bet. That
like
was easy. The point is,
No,
though.
you didn't.
Anyway, we're moved on, Anthony. I'm
so happy.
This anyway, that was my first ever writing job, and
Good job.
I just cold emailed this magazine. What happened was there were a bunch of poker magazines, and I wanted to write about poker. And this one I saw, the first issue came out, and it was so bad. I was like, this is achievable. So I cold emailed the editor, and I was like, I'd like to write for you, and he was like, great. And then I did.
And there you
It
go.
worked great.
All right,
And
that's
then
how you
I
do
wrote
it.
for them for 3 issues, and then they went out of business. Not my fault. Anyway,
But you didn't help enough, you know.
I
Like,
Yeah, didn't
that's
bring
what
him
you
in.
know for
I
sure.
didn't save it. Anthony, you did play guitar in chess band, never learned how to read music.
Yeah.
It's great. You did tell us a lot of extra details. So, Hunter, did we do a double lie today? Have you been to the Statue of Liberty since you sent me that fact that you hadn't been to the Statue of Liberty?
Oh no, I was just joking around. That was just like a fun joke.
I was just really worried that you had actually gone, because you sent me this like months ago.
Yeah, I just thought it was like funny.
You were closer to the Statue of Liberty than any of us. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
you know,
is it just could have changed? And I just thought that'd be a funny possibility. But
you just scared me for no reason. All right.
You're currently recording from the crown of the Statue of Liberty.
No, I moved into the Statue of Liberty. That's what I was. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Eyes closed, but you did it.
Is the actual truth.
The thing is, living in the Statue of Liberty is actually cheaper than Brooklyn right now. Crazy.
New York.
All right, man. We'll talk to everybody next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.